performing at a level, and a lot of times we use that against players.
Sure.
But then you go and look at Sabonis. His numbers are great. And then you go and look at his team. His team is playing well. They traded players. They traded out Victor Oladipo. They bring in Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert is not playing with the team. And all he did was step up and put them in the fourth place in the Eastern Conference. And we're not talking about one of those like, oh, we're just okay. They're literally playing quality basketball with a brand new coach, and he is doing a great job. I think he belongs. He should have got it over Vucevic.
That's a good take. They're rewarding teams that have their team in position. And obviously, Sabonis has had a great season. You look at Bam, who's playing well. You look at Trae Young, who's averaging 27 points. But these guys, if I'm not mistaken, the only person who made the All-Star team out of the East that's team is not in playoff contention right now is Bradley Beal. And we all know what kind of season he's having. So, I see where Richard is at with that Vucevic and Sabonis. But overall, it's hard for me to take anyone outside of Vucevic off that roster and replace him with someone else since we're going by Rachel's rules.
Again, this is physics. You cannot jam an extra human on there unless you take a human out. Right. I am just saying. All right, I want to move on to the West. Mostly vets with guys like CP3, Damian Lillard, who should have been in the starter. Anyway, Paul George, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Zion, the only first-time All-Star here. Now, Anthony Davis got the nod. He's unlikely to play due to injury. But that means, do we get Devin Booker right on there? Matt, where do you lie on this? The commissioner gets to pick who the injury substitution should be.
I think 100% it should be Devin Booker. Again, a nice list. It's hard to remove anyone else, but Devin Booker's having a great year with his running mate CP3, have his team, probably the biggest surprise team of the year. They're sitting at fourth place in the Western Conference, 10 games over 500, and I just love the kind of basketball they're playing. So like LeBron said, Devin Booker has consistently been looked over, and the commissioner should definitely do the right thing and hand that nod to Devin Booker.
Yeah, I agree. Now, again, this is where you're fortunate where we don't have to take somebody off because we know Anthony Davis is not playing.
Yep.
But I think this is more of a credit to Chris Paul. Right. The minute Chris Paul got on that team, even though Devin Booker is putting up great numbers, which he has done for multiple years in his career, cracking the All-Star game last year, I think you look at it and you're like, well, the only reason why they're truly in fourth place is because Chris Paul brought a level of calm, security, veteran leadership. So that's why he was an All-Star in OKC last year. That's why he's an All-Star this year. People are giving him the credit for the success for the Suns and not Devin Booker. But I think Devin Booker will get it with Anthony Davis sitting out the All-Star game.
That's a great point, because when you say people are giving him credit, it's the coaches, right? The coaches are the ones who pick the reserves, and coaches love vets. So, yeah, I am not surprised it fell that way.
Not all coaches love vets. It's secure coaches that are secure. Insecure coaches don't like vets because vets know the real from the fake. So secure coaches like them.
I think you might be mixing that up. It's that coaches didn't like you when you were a vet, Richard. I don't know if we expand that out to everyone.
17 years, right? 17 years. I was doing something right.
Absolutely. Many things right. I'm gonna keep bragging on you because we only put that little thing up in the corner. This man has been in 4 NBA finals.
Hey, I had good teammates.
Yeah, but
I give them all the credit, just like Chris Paul deserves a lot of that credit.
He gave 110%. All right, coming up, the Celtics have 2 All-Stars, but they are currently under 500 of the schedule release special continues. I'm going to welcome in a couple of NBA champs, Richard Jefferson, Matt Barnes. Starting with Richard, how much should head-to-head matchups factor into the MVP race down the stretch, my friend?
Well, I think it should matter. I think a lot of things matter. I think the head-to-heads are something that we get excited about. We want to see players pair up. Again, last year when LeBron James was kind of closing that gap on Giannis, a lot of people pointed to the wins versus Milwaukee, the wins versus the Clippers. Conversely, when Giannis was starting to build his narrative in December, I think it was mainly because he had beat the Clippers and had beat the Lakers. So I think these head-to-head matchups, they matter, but I don't think they should count towards. Ultimately, it's a lot of times it's the best player on the best team or someone that's having a historic season.
I think, obviously, I think Richard hit it on the head. It's more for the fans. We love these matchups when you can get star against star, especially guys that are at the top of the MVP race. But obviously it's the body of work. But to me, I would just love, and I know we've talked about this before, I would love for it to expand through the playoffs because I'm tired of seeing MVPs take their team to the first or even second round. To me, MVPs is the guy you can go to down the stretch and the guy that's going to take his team hopefully to the conference finals or to the NBA finals. So I wish they would just expand, make it the entire season, not just the regular season.
Well, I have a platform of awards reform, Matt Barnes, but there are a lot of people who feel that this should be something that goes through the playoffs. Now, that, of course, might discount the regular season more, which is something the NBA doesn't want because they want people to buy tickets for those games when people could eventually be back. But there are discussions about, do we have the right awards? RJ, my thing. I think that the MVP should be for who the best player in the league is. And if someone does put up historic offensive numbers or stats for that season, they should get rewarded with a separate award, which is what every other major pro U.S. sports league does. That being said, if you did it that way, or maybe even in the current system, do you think that a star with two other stars on his team, and this year it is Kevin Durant with the Nets, before it was any of the Warriors, KD, Steph, Clay, right, Draymond, those guys. Do you think if you up to three superstars, you can win the MVP?
I don't think so. I think you go back in history, I feel like Magic Johnson might have done it. I feel like Larry Bird. But how many players have really won it with three superstars? You could say Michael Jordan did it with Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman on his team. But if you're talking about three offensive weapons, three offensive stars where you had in Golden State, you had in Miami, I truly believe with D-Wade, Chris Bosh, even though Chris Bosh took a lesser role, I think it's very, very difficult to make that MVP because on a lot of given nights, like we're talking about James Harden should be in the conversation, but a lot of it has to do with him stepping up in the absence of Kevin Durant, who is probably the best player on their team. So it just becomes very, very difficult when guys are alternating, dominating when you have three players of that caliber.
Agreed. Again, Richard hit it on the head. It's tough when you have three go-to stars on the offensive end because these guys take turns. So normally if you have one or two guys, those one or two guys, AD and LeBron have to go every single night. With Brooklyn's situation, you have the luxury of, unfortunately, not having Kevin Durant for a little while, and the team doesn't really miss a beat. So it's tough when you have three guys, three alphas on the offensive end to, really determine whether they're MVP worthy or not. But at the same time, when you have three superstars, the goal should be championship, not MVPs.
Right. And look, I know fans kind of can get upset if they feel like the stars on their team were, quote, discounted. Like a lot of the Warriors fans are like, wait, if that was the rule for our guys, it should be the rule for the Nets. There's no rule, obviously. It's what individual voters decide is important to them. And there's a real cross-section making up that voting pool. That being said, if you look at the voting results over the years, the tipping point for voters seems to be between those